Have you ever wondered what really goes on during the night shift? Working the night shift can be a surreal experience. The world outside is dark and quiet, while you're stuck inside, trying to stay awake and focused. It's no wonder that eerie experiences and urban legends have become an integral part of night shift folklore. Some of these stories can be downright terrifying, and it's often hard to distinguish between what's real and what's just a product of our imagination. Tonight, I'll be sharing 2 horror stories that'll send chills down your spine. But here's the twist, only one of them is true. One is a myth whilst the other is based on reality. Can you guess which is which? As we explore these stories, remember that the night shift can be a real-life horror show. The darkness, the isolation, the endless cups of coffee, it's a perfect recipe for a descent into madness. So sit back, turn off the lights, and let's begin. Story 1. The disappearance of Alexander Walsh. Extracted from Mercy General Hospital records and Burlington PD case files, 2018 to 2019. The security cameras at Mercy General Hospital's west parking lot captured Alexander Walsh, RN, arriving for his night shift at 22:47 on March 15, 2019. Standard check-in records show him swiping his ID badge, employee #MGH 2475, at the staff entrance at 22:53, precisely 7 minutes before his scheduled 2300 hours shift in the medical ICU on the hospital's 4th floor. As a Level 1 trauma center serving northern Vermont, Mercy General's night shift operated with a carefully coordinated staff rotation. Walsh, a 6-year veteran of critical care nursing with additional certification in trauma care from Johns Hopkins, had worked the 23 to 7 o'clock shift in MICU Pod B since transferring from Boston General in 2016. His employee records, archived by HR Director Margaret Chin, show exemplary performance reviews and perfect attendance until the incidents began in early 2019. The first documented irregularity appeared in the shift notes for February 23, 2019. Charge nurse Patricia Rodriguez wrote, RN Walsh reported unusual equipment malfunctions in rooms 417 and 419. Maintenance checked vital sign monitors for electrical issues. No faults found. Walsh insisted monitors showed flatline readings for 2.7 seconds at precisely 3:33, but continuous recording data shows normal sinus rhythm for both patients during this time period. Security footage from that night, reviewed by head of hospital security James Morton, shows Walsh making an unscheduled visit to the hospital's non-denominational chapel on the 7th floor at 3:47. The chapel, constructed during the hospital's 1962 renovation, served as a quiet space for staff and families. The video feed shows Walsh entering the chapel, but the next 18 minutes of footage is corrupted by what IT specialist Thomas Chin described in his report as unprecedented electromagnetic interference. Walsh emerged from the chapel at 4:05, according to the timestamp. Security cameras in stairwell B captured him running down 6 flights of stairs to the MICU. His key card logs show him accessing Pod B at 4:07, where patient monitoring systems recorded the death of Gerald Henderson, patient #19-4573, at 4:09 from suspected cardiac arrest. In his mandatory incident report, Form IR 2019-147, Walsh wrote, I knew something was wrong. Someone warned me. A voice in the chapel told me to run. I can't explain how I knew, but I knew Mr. Henderson needed help. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the attending physician, noted that while the timing was unusual, nothing in the patient's death suggested anything beyond natural causes. However, she did document Walsh's unusual level of agitation and insistence that he had been called to the room. The following weeks brought increasingly concerning incidents. On March 1, 2019, 3 vital sign monitors in Pod B showed simultaneous power fluctuations at 3:33, though building management systems supervisor Robert Young found no electrical abnormalities. 6 days later, security camera footage captured Walsh having an animated conversation in empty room 421, with audio recording picking up his words. I can hear you. What are you trying to tell me? By March 12th, night shift coordinator Helen Patel reported finding Walsh standing motionless in the corridor for 47 minutes, between 3:15 and 4:02. Walsh's final shift began normally on March 15, 2019. Card reader logs show routine patient checks until 3:28, when he took an unscheduled break and went to the chapel. Security footage shows him entering at 3:31. At 3:33, All 7th floor cameras experienced simultaneous malfunction, lasting exactly 2.7 seconds. When video resumed, Walsh was no longer visible in the chapel. Events unfolded rapidly after his disappearance. Nurse Rodriguez noted his absence from Pod B at 3:34. The first overhead page went out at 3:37, followed by security alerts at 3:42. A hospital-wide search began at 3:45. By 4:15, security had found his belongings intact in staff locker number 247. At 4:33, they discovered his 2017 Toyota Camry, VD plate, GHK 247, in West Lot position W35. Burlington Police Department was notified at 5:17. Case #BPD 2019-0315-247. Detective Michael Torres's investigation uncovered disturbing details. Walsh's phone, a new iPhone XR, was found in the chapel. The last text message, sent at 3:32, read, "They're getting louder. The whispers. They want me to dash." The message remained unsent. Chapel security footage from previous weeks showed Walsh spending increasingly long periods there during his breaks, often appearing to converse with someone off camera. His personal journal, recovered from his apartment at 247 Maple Street, contained repeated references to voices in the corridors and shadows moving against the light. The precise time 3:33 appeared multiple times in his notes, along with the recurring phrase, "They're calling me to the other side." The case remained open but inactive until September 2019, when Mercy General began renovation work on the 7th floor. During demolition of the chapel's north wall, workers discovered a previously unknown maintenance tunnel dating back to the hospital's original 1932 construction. The tunnel, which had been sealed during the 1962 renovation, showed signs of recent disturbance. Burlington PD search and rescue team, led by Captain Sarah Henderson, conducted a thorough exploration of the tunnel system on September 15, 2019. They found no trace of Walsh, but did recover his employee ID badge, MGH 2475, deep within the tunnel network. Curiously, the card's electronic log showed its last use at 3:33 on March 15th, although no card reader existed in that section of the hospital. Mercy General Hospital closed its 7th floor in December 2019, citing structural concerns. The chapel remains sealed. However, night shift staff consistently report unusual occurrences in the 4th floor MICU, particularly in Pod B, usually around 3:33. Security cameras occasionally capture unexplained shadows, and the vital sign monitors in rooms 417 and 419 continue to show momentary flatline readings that don't appear in the system's records. Alexander Walsh's disappearance remains unsolved. Burlington PD cold case #19-247. His mother, Eleanor Walsh, still maintains his apartment at 247 Maple Street, convinced he will return. She reports that his Toyota Camry's electrical system activates spontaneously at 3:33 a.m. on the 15th of each month, though mechanics can find no explanation. Addendum. On March 15, 2023, exactly 4 years after Walsh's disappearance, all electronic monitoring systems in MICU Pod B experienced simultaneous failure at 3:33. When the systems restarted 2.7 seconds later, security footage showed a figure in scrubs standing in the corridor outside room 417. Though the figure's face is not visible in the footage, the ID badge visible on their chest reads MGH 2475. The incident remains under investigation by hospital security. If you're working the night shift, you know that it can be a real-life horror show. The darkness, the isolation, the endless cups of coffee. It's a perfect recipe for a descent into madness. And sometimes it's hard to distinguish between what's real and what's just a product of our imagination. But there's another story, one that's even more terrifying than Alex's. It's a story that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about the night shift. Are you ready to hear it? Story 2. The Last Patrol of Kenji Tanaka. Based on accounts from Aokigahara Forest Patrol records, 2019 to 2023. The beam of my Maglite ML300L cut through the darkness at the base of Mount Fuji, creating dancing shadows among the twisted volcanic rock and gnarled roots of Aokigahara. After 5 years of night patrols along the Koshu hiking trail entrance, I had learned to trust neither shadow nor silence. Both could deceive. I checked my Casio G-Shock, February 15, 2023, 2:15 a.m. The witching hour, as my predecessor Hiroshi Tanaka used to say before he quit last summer. He'd lasted 15 years patrolling the northwest sector before the forest finally broke him. These days, he rarely leaves his apartment in Building 3 to 7 of the Fujikawa-Guchiko housing complex, just off Route 139. The crunch of basalt beneath my standard-issue Danner patrol boots was the only sound breaking the supernatural silence. The densely packed Mongolian oak and Japanese maple trees create what local scientists at the Fuji Research Institute have termed nature's dead room, a space where sound waves are absorbed so completely that even a gunshot would be barely audible at 100 meters. My Motorola radio crackled. Fuji base to Kenji Nakamura. Check-in required. Nakamura here. Section EB7 of the Northwest Patrol Zone clear. Moving to F7. My voice sounded hollow in the dense air. Copy that, Nakamura-san. Base Officer Yamamoto here. Stay safe. Stay safe. Standard protocol established in the 2018 Aokigahara Forest Patrol Guidelines, but we all knew what it meant. Stay alert. Stay sane. Don't let the forest get to you. The trees seemed to press closer as I moved deeper into F7, passing marker post number 247, one of the 375 official trail markers installed by the Yamanashi prefectural government in 2018. This section, particularly the area between markers number 247 and number 251, was known among patrol workers for its high concentration of incidents. According to Officer Yamamoto's records, we'd had 17 emergency responses in this zone during 2022 alone. At 2:37 a.m., a flash of white caught my peripheral vision near the coordinates 35 degrees 28 minutes 13.9 seconds north, 138 degrees 37 minutes 12.4 seconds east. I swung my flashlight toward it, heart racing, but there was nothing there. Just another trick of light and shadow. Or so I told myself. Marker number 248 should have been visible by now. Its distinctive blue reflective tape designed to be visible from 50 meters in any direction. I swept my flashlight in an arc, searching for the familiar Nicolite brand reflective material, but found nothing. Something wasn't right. According to my GPS unit, a Garmin XMAP 66 SR issued by the Yamanashi Prefecture Forest Service, I should have reached the marker by now. A soft sound broke through the silence, so faint I almost missed it. A whimper? A sob? My training from the Mount Fuji Forest Service Academy kicked in. This was why we were here. To find people before they made an irreversible decision. Hello, I called out, my voice swallowed by the darkness. I'm with the Forest Patrol Service. I'm here to help. You're not alone. Another sob, clearer this time, coming from somewhere to my left. I turned, scanning the darkness with my flashlight. I'm Officer Nakamura with the Night Patrol. Please let me help you. The crying continued, but something about it raised the hairs on the back of my neck. It seemed to move, always just beyond the reach of my light, leading me deeper into the forest, away from the designated patrol route outlined in Section 7.3 of our operational manual. I hesitated. In 5 years of patrols, I'd learned to trust my instincts. Something felt wrong. I keyed my radio. Nakamura to Fuji base. Possible situation in F7. Coordinates 35 degrees 28 minutes 13.9 seconds north, 138 degrees 37 minutes 12.4 seconds east, requesting backup. Only static answered. The Motorola signal repeater installed on the forest's edge in 2021 should have ensured clear communication throughout the patrol zone. Something was interfering with the signal. The crying grew louder, more distinct. A woman's voice, filled with raw anguish. Against my better judgment, I followed it. The path ahead narrowed, forcing me to duck under low-hanging branches of Japanese white pine and step carefully over the twisted roots of ancient maples. The beam of my flashlight caught something pale among the trees. A simple camping tent, its north face fabric dirty and weather-beaten. My stomach tightened. Finding abandoned camps wasn't unusual. We logged 43 such discoveries in 2022 alone. But this one seemed different. Personal belongings were scattered around it, as if the occupant had just stepped away. A Yoshida Porter backpack, a Zojirushi water bottle, a small Muji notebook with its pages fluttering in a breeze I couldn't feel. The crying stopped. The silence that followed was absolute, pressing against my eardrums like a physical weight. I approached the tent slowly, duty warring with instinct. The notebook caught my eye. Its pages were blank, but something had been written on the cover in precise characters. They never leave. Neither will you. The words were written in fresh Pilot G2 ink, the standard issue pen we all carried in our patrol kits. A twig snapped behind me. I spun around, heart pounding, but my flashlight beam found only empty forest. Another snap, closer this time, accompanied by the soft whisper of footsteps on dead leaves. "This is Officer Nakamura. Show yourself." My voice cracked, betraying my fear. The footsteps circled around me, drawing closer. My flashlight beam trembled as I tried to track the sound. A white figure flashed between the trees, too tall, too thin to be human. The beam of my flashlight passed through it like smoke. My radio burst to life with a screech of static, making me jump. Through the white noise, I heard fragments of voices. "Lost. Help us. Never leave." The footsteps were all around me now, and with them came whispers, dozens of overlapping voices speaking in urgent, desperate tones. I backed away, trying to remember which direction led back to the marked trail, but the forest looked the same in every direction. The markers were gone. Everything was gone except the trees, the darkness, and the voices. Something cold brushed against my shoulder. I ran. Branches whipped at my face as I crashed through the underbrush, all thoughts of patrol protocol forgotten. The voices followed, growing louder, more insistent. My flashlight beam bounced wildly, creating nightmarish shadows that seemed to reach for me with grasping fingers. I tripped over a root and went down hard, the impact driving the air from my lungs. My flashlight flew from my hand, its beam illuminating something that made my blood freeze. A figure in white, standing motionless among the trees. As I watched in horror, it began to move toward me with an unnatural, gliding motion. My fingers scrabbled in the dirt, searching for the flashlight. When I finally grabbed it and swung it back up, the figure was gone. But the crying had started again, closer than ever. "Leave me alone!" I screamed into the darkness. "Nakamura? Nakamura, do you copy?" The voice from my radio was real this time. Clear, professional, concerned. It was Senior Officer Matsuda, the night shift supervisor. I snatched the radio with trembling hands. "H here. I'm here. Coordinates unknown. We've got your GPS signal. Stay where you are. Backup Team Delta is en route." I hugged my knees to my chest, keeping my flashlight trained on the surrounding trees. The voices had faded, but the unnatural silence that replaced them was almost worse. I could feel the forest watching me, waiting. At 3:17 a.m., I saw flashlight beams cutting through the trees. Officers Yamamoto and Suzuki from Team Delta found me still sitting there, covered in dirt and scratches. They helped me to my feet, careful not to mention my obvious distress. They'd seen it before. We all had. "Let's get you back to base," Yamamoto said quietly. "You've had enough for tonight." As they led me out of the forest, I glanced back one last time. In the distance, barely visible in the darkness, a white figure stood watching. Beside it, I could make out other shapes, dark silhouettes against the deeper darkness of the forest. They stood motionless, silent witnesses to our departure. I submitted my resignation to Chief Patrol Officer Matsuda the next morning. The official report, filed under Incident Number AKG 2023-0216, simply states Officer Kenji Nakamura resigned due to personal reasons. That was 3 months ago. I haven't slept properly since. My psychiatrist at Fujiyoshida General Hospital, Dr. Saito, has prescribed increasingly strong doses of halcyon, but they don't help. Every night at 2:37 a.m., I wake to the sound of crying. Every shadow in my apartment at the Mountain View complex in Fujikawa-Guchiko holds that familiar white figure. But the worst part, the thing that keeps me awake in my 6th-floor apartment at 317 Shimoyashida, is the pull I feel. The forest calls to me, urging me to return to that exact spot. 35 degrees 28 minutes 13.9 seconds north, 138 degrees 37 minutes 12.4 seconds east. Some nights, I find myself halfway to my Honda Civic before I catch myself. The forest marked me that night, and a part of me knows it's only a matter of time before I answer its call. After all, as the notebook said, they never leave. Neither will I. Addendum. On June 7, 2023, Kenji Nakamura's 2019 Honda Civic, license plate, Yamanashi 545-89, was found abandoned at the Aokigahara Forest parking lot near the Kosha Trail entrance. His current whereabouts remain unknown. This account was transcribed from his personal journal, recovered from his apartment by Fujikawa-Guchiko Police Department, case #FPD 2023-0607. The journal is currently held as evidence in the Yamanashi Prefecture Police Archives, along with his recovered patrol equipment and the Muji notebook found at his last known location. As we reflect on these two stories, we realize that the night shift can be a real-life horror show. It's a place where the darkness can play tricks on our minds, where the isolation can drive us to the brink of madness. But it's also a place where the truth can be twisted and distorted, where the lines between reality and fantasy are blurred. So, which story is true, and which one is false? The answer might surprise you. The story of Kenji Tanaka is actually true and a reality, based on real events that took place in Japan. It's a testament to the bravery of night shift workers, who put their lives on the line every day to keep us safe. On the other hand, the story of Alexander is completely fictional, a product of my imagination. However, it's a story that could be true, a story that could be happening right now in some abandoned hospital or factory. And that's what makes it so terrifying. As we conclude this video, I want to ask you, what's your own experience with the night shift? Have you ever had any eerie or unsettling experiences while working the graveyard shift? Share your stories in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. If you're interested in more horror stories, be sure to check out our video on creepy urban legends. It's a great way to pass the time on your next night shift, and who knows, it might just make you realize that the darkness is closer than you think. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.